programs, so it really seems like not the right time to be reducing how much we give to transit. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening. I don't know if anybody has questions. I'm happy to answer them if you do. I will turn it over to Bob Kellerman, who is also an aging program person.
Is that microphone? Okay, good. I don't have the stature of my fellow speakers, so I choose to stand up. I'm also going to talk today about transportation, and there is a handout. It's part of your handout. I am the executive director of an agency called the Greater Wisconsin Agency on Aging Resources, and we have a funny acronym called GWAR. And what we do is we make sure that the funding for the programs that Noreen talked about gets out to all of the counties. Before I talk about transportation, though, I would like to do a footnote, if I may, on Social Security. I know that many of you are here who are on Social Security. I am indeed eligible myself, which means that I can tell certain generations get it. They get what Social Security is all about. After all, when did Social Security come into being? It came into being around the recession, did it not? And isn't that what we are in right now, basically? Well, I have a little personal note here that it woke me up one day. My son, he and his wife made me a grandfather a couple of months ago, was laid off of his job right after that. And it struck me that here's a person that is now going to, in his late 20s, is now beginning to lose his earning power. He's beginning to lose his earnings, let's say. So you can't even save money when you're not earning money. But Social Security is a big help when it comes to, he's not going to be unemployed forever, I know that. But it's going to become a more important part of his life as he grows older. And you get that. I know that you get that. And I don't think that a lot of younger generation people get that because, you know, retirement is way, way, way down the road. They don't know how fast life goes. So I ask you this. Not only be advocates for your generation, not only be advocates for this program, but remember, be advocates for the generations to come who will realize the importance of that Social Security saving, you might say, that Social Security benefit that will help them continue into their retirement, even though they were put back a bit in their younger years because of a recession. So that's my message on Social Security. It's an intergenerational thing. Anyway, transportation. I've been in this business close to 30 years, and I've talked to a lot of seniors about what it is that's important in their lives, and invariably it comes down to 3 things. It comes down to persons are going to say, what's important to me is my health care, is my health. And then they're going to talk about the cost of their health care, right? And right beyond that, right past that, not even number 3, is transportation. Those of you who were able to jump in your cars today and drive down here, God bless you. Those of you who had a friend, relative, or neighbor give you a ride down here today, well, God bless your friend, relative, or neighbor. But we all know that someday, maybe most of us are going to be losing our ability to drive safely. And then if we don't have that relative, friend, or neighbor, we're going to be dependent upon some type of system out there that can help us, because we're going to be dependent more on people than things. We're going to be dependent on some kind of system out there that's going to help us get to where we want to go. And those places are usually medical appointments. My gosh, that goes back to health and healthcare. Grocery shopping or nutrition. And then some social trips as well, even going to church. All of those things become more and more difficult as your transportation limitations happen. So, as Noreen mentioned, every county receives an allocation of funding for a system to be developed, and Noreen in La Crosse County is the administrator of that system. I don't know the exact name of it, but that doesn't matter. Every county has theirs, and it moves persons with who are older and persons who have disabilities around to those places they need to go. And as Noreen mentioned, that funding is based upon a formula, and that formula has had a change that will, if it's fixed, it will never have to be changed again. And it has moved money all over the state, and some counties have lost double-digit amounts of percentages of their transportation funding, their elderly and disabled transportation funding. In this budget, there needs to be put in 600, and it's in your handouts. I think it's $670-some thousand. I'm not sure the exact, $678,000. And as Noreen mentioned, to us that's a big number, right? I would love to earn that every year, but we don't. But in the scheme of a state budget, that is like very, very small, very, very, very small. And if that were put back into the state budget, these transportation programs would be made whole, you might say. They would recover their losses from this funding formula problem, and that problem would not occur again because the updates to the formula will be more frequent rather than 12 years old. What else can I say about this? What is $678,000? How much does a highway cost per mile? Does anybody know? Huh? Over $1 million, I think, a highway. You build a highway, let's say, okay, let's give it the interstate. Okay, that's 4 lanes. That's got to be over $1 million a mile, right? Well, we're not asking for even a mile's worth of highway to make the elderly and disabled transportation program. So my message to you is, if you talk to a legislator, you might want to mention the importance of transportation in your life or the lives of the older persons that you know. Yes, ma'am.
Are you familiar with the 10% plan put forward by Sierra Club?
No.
No or yes?
No, I'm not.
You might want to look into it. They've got a proposal that's coming out of Whispering, that group, and,
Whisper, right?
and 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin, whoever they are. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And their proposal is that you reduce the, let's see, get this straight, highway spending by 10%, which would be $300 million, and that be allocated in various ways, restoring 10% of the transit programs, and reimbursement by 21 million, anyhow, some goes back to the individual counties and their programs that they've got set up, and then the remainder would be used to, which is the better part of the 300 million, would be used to reduce the excessive bonding costs.
I can't articulate those, but I actually do have a folder on my desk.
But anyhow, there are other groups trying to solve the problem too.
Right, there are.
So
all of the transit groups have formed a coalition, and they've agreed on a list of items. And ours is this elderly and disabled transportation item.
Do you consider a group like the Sierra Club one of those?
Yes, I've met the guy who represents the Sierra Club in that coalition. And I think one of the overall main points of the coalition is, as Noreen mentioned, is to keep the transportation fund money in the specialized transportation in the transportation fund. You know, the gas tax fund. You know, the one that Doyle was accused of.
Rather than what?
Huh?
Keep it in there rather than what?
Then to put it into the general fund.
Oh, God, no.
Because if you're in the general fund, then you're fighting with every other organization that wants funding. But if it's in the transportation fund, that's for transportation. Okay, and then so I'll leave it to you how you think about that. But I just think that it's a raid of a different kind. Any questions about elderly?